In this episode, we are headed high into the Andes Mountains in Peru to learn about the fascinating gods of the Inca. While today's episode focuses on the Inca, it should be noted that the Inca were not the first to inhabit this region, but rather built their empire on the foundation laid by several other pre-Can cultures. However, as the Inca were arguably the most famous and influential of these societies, many of the beliefs and myths attributed to the pre-Inca were likely influenced by and synthesized with Inca culture over time. So, while we cannot know for certain which myths originated with which society, we can still appreciate them together as part of a rich tapestry of stories that once formed part of a vibrant and living tradition. And so, without further ado, let's get started. We start off our exploration of the Inca pantheon with perhaps the most important deity of all, the creator god Viracocha, who is believed to have created the world itself. According to the Inca creation myth, Viracocha awoke from a deep slumber within Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world, located high in the Andes. Before he awoke, there was only water, but upon emerging, he began to speak, and everything came into existence. With his first words, he created the mountains and the rivers, and over time, according to some versions of the myth, he created humans out of clay. However, these humans were dim-witted, and Viracocha grew frustrated with them. He then retreated to a cave and pondered what else he could do. After some time, he decided to create another race of humans, but this time he made them from maize, and this time the humans were more like he had envisioned. And so he continued to mold them, creating the various social classes and filling the world with all manner of creatures and plants, until finally he looked upon his handiwork and saw that it was good. Then he set about creating the sun and the moon to light the world. The sun, Inti, became the father of day, while the moon, Mamaquilla, became the mother of night. Finally, after everything was made, Viracocha gave humanity one last gift, the Inca kingship, which would become the center of Inca religion and mythology. And thus, we see that the Inca had a pretty unique creation story, unlike anything we've heard before. With their deities rising from a body of water, bringing forth the natural world with the power of speech. It's a beautiful metaphor for the Inca's reverence for water and the natural world as a whole. While Viracocha was perhaps the supreme god of the Inca pantheon, there were other important deities throughout the empire. One such goddess was Pachamama, or Earth Mother. As the name suggests, Pachamama represented the earth itself, but she was much more than just a mere aspect of nature. She was the provider, responsible for the fertility of the land, the bounty of the harvest, and the sustenance of all life. Because of this, Pachamama was worshipped throughout the Andes, both by the Inca and the pre-Inca cultures, and her influence can still be seen today in the various festivals and rituals that are held in her honor. To the Inca, the mountains were considered to be the home of the gods, and the highest and most majestic peaks were revered as the abode of the divine. One such mountain was Mount Alsengate, which was considered to be the home of the god Apu. Apu was the spirit of the mountain, and he was believed to control the weather and the fertility of the land. It was said that he was so powerful that he could bring rain or snow at will, and that he was also the protector of the Inca people. In fact, every mountain had its own spirit or Apu, and these spirits were believed to be the guardians of the Inca. They were also seen as intermediaries between the Inca and the gods, and they were often called upon to help protect travelers or to intervene in disputes. The Inca would often make offerings to the Apu, such as food, drink, and flowers, and they would also build temples and shrines in their honor. In some cases, they would even go to the mountains to live for a time in order to be closer to the gods. Today, the tradition of worshiping the Apu continues in some form or another throughout the Andes, and there are still many people who make pilgrimages to the mountains to pay their respects to the divine spirits that reside there. The rivers were also considered to be sacred to the Inca, and they were seen as the source of life and fertility. One of the most important rivers to the Inca was the Vilcanota River, which was considered to be the home of the water god named Ilapa. Ilapa was believed to control the water cycle, and he was also seen as the bringer of rain and thunder. The Inca believed that Ilapa was so powerful that he could cause floods or droughts at will, and that he was also the protector of the Inca Empire. In addition to Ilapa, there were also many other water deities that were worshipped by the Inca, each with their own special powers and domains. For example, there was a water goddess named Nalip, who was believed to be the protector of pregnant women and children. Finally, we come to the sky, which was seen as the home of the celestial deities. One of the most important celestial deities was the sun god Inti, who was considered to be the father of the Inca kings. Inti was believed to be so powerful that he could bring light and warmth to the world, and that he was also the source of all life. In addition to Inti, there were also many other celestial deities that were worshipped by the Inca, each with their own special powers and domains. For example, there was a moon goddess named Mama Quilla, who was considered to be the mother of Inti. Mama Quilla was believed to be the source of the night and the stars, and that she was also the protector of the moon. Now that we have an understanding of some of the major deities of the Inca pantheon, let's look at some of the myths and legends that feature them. The Inca creation myth we touched on earlier is perhaps the most important myth in Inca religion. It tells the story of how Viracocha created the world and all of its inhabitants, as well as the Inca kingship. Another important myth is the legend of Manco, Capac, and Mama Aclo. This is the story of how the Inca Empire was founded by the brother and sister, Manco, Capac, and Mama Aclo. According to the myth, the sun god Inti sent them to the earth to establish a civilization. They traveled for many years until they finally reached the valley of Cusco, where they founded the Inca Empire. This myth is especially important because it established the divine right of the Inca kings to rule. It was believed that the Inca were descended from the sun god, and this gave them a sense of legitimacy and authority over their subjects. As we wrap up our exploration of the Inca pantheon, it's important to remember that these myths and legends were unjust stories told to entertain or educate, but rather they were a way of understanding the world and the place in it. They provided a framework for understanding the relationship between humanity and the divine, and they offered guidance on how to live a virtuous and fulfilling life. These stories have been passed down for generations, and they continue to be an important part of Andean culture today. If you enjoy learning about the Inca pantheon, I highly recommend checking out a video on the myths of the Wari, another pre-Incan society that inhabited the Andes. And if you want to learn more about the Inca specifically, I recommend checking out a video on the famous Inca city of Machu Picchu. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.